Have you ever woken up one day, not in your bed, but in your mind, feeling like the world around you had changed, but nothing actually had? You can't explain it. You're not sad. You're not even tired. You just don't care anymore. No goals excite you. No ambition drives you. You used to have dreams. Now, even desire feels heavy. Carl Jung called this space the desert after revelation, the empty pause after you meet your soul. And suddenly, everything external loses its meaning. If you're feeling lost after your spiritual awakening, you're not broken, you're evolving. And what you're feeling right now, Carl Jung believed it's one of the most important stages of your inner journey. Let's go deep. What is spiritual awakening? Really, we throw around the phrase spiritual awakening a lot, but Jung didn't see it as something glamorous. He didn't think awakening meant enlightenment, bliss, or even clarity. To him, awakening was more like disintegration, a collapse. The ego, that thing you've called you your whole life, gets exposed for what it really is, a mask. Suddenly, the job, the titles, the social media applause, they stop feeling like you. They lose their flavor. It's not that you hate them, they just don't matter anymore. And when the ego dissolves, what's left? Silence, emptiness, stillness, and for many, paralysis. This, Jung believed, is the start of real inner work, not the end. You used to wake up with a to-do list. Now you wake up with a question. Why? Why chase goals that don't satisfy the soul? Why pursue success if it's built on a version of you that no longer exists? Here's what Jung understood. Your old motivations came from your persona, the mask you wore for society. That mask wanted validation. It wanted to be liked, admired, accepted, seen. But after awakening, the illusion fades. You start seeing your conditioning and rejecting it. Now, the things that once drove you, money, fame, attention, praise, feel fake, empty calories, spiritually malnourishing. And here's the twist. Nothing has replaced them yet. This is the void. This is the transition. Carl Jung wrote, "Enlightenment is not imagining figures of light, but making the darkness conscious." And the truth is, after awakening, that darkness becomes louder before it becomes light. Let's be clear, you're not lazy, you're not broken, you're not in a rut, you're healing. What you're experiencing is ego death, and ego death often mimics depression, but it's not the same. In depression, you want to want, but you can't. In ego death, you've realized maybe wanting wasn't the answer at all. Jung often explored this subtle difference. He believed the collapse of motivation after awakening was not illness, but soul work in progress. It's the moment the ego realizes, I am no longer in control. And that's terrifying, because for the first time, your soul is asking the questions, not your ambition, not your trauma, not your fear. Think about this. So much of what we do is coping in disguise. Why do people overachieve? To prove they're worthy. Why do people chase relationships? To fill a void. Why do people post non-stop online? To be seen. Because they don't feel seen by themselves. But when the light of awakening hits, those hidden motivations get exposed, and that exposure can be paralyzing. You realize, I wasn't chasing purpose, I was chasing escape. I wasn't building a life, I was building a distraction. I wasn't in love, I was afraid of being alone. This truth can destroy you, but Jung believed it also frees you, because once false desires die, only authentic purpose remains. But finding that purpose takes time. And in the meantime, the mind goes silent. Carl Jung described this state as a psychological limbo, where the old has died, but the new hasn't arrived. He called it the creative void. You don't belong to your past self anymore, but your future self isn't born yet. And here's the part no one tells you. This stage can last months, sometimes years. There are no shortcuts, no affirmations. You can't force a butterfly out of its cocoon. You must dissolve first. And in this dissolution, motivation dies, so something deeper can be born. Not drive, not hustle, but direction. Not noise, but knowing. Most people chase awakening, but very few integrate it. Integration is where the real work begins. It's when the soul and the ego sit down at the same table and try to understand each other. Jung's entire theory of individuation was built around this concept. He didn't want you to destroy the ego. He wanted you to make it conscious, because the ego, once purified by the soul, becomes a servant, not a master. And when that happens, motivation returns. But it's no longer frantic or restless. It's rooted, stable, clean. Now you create not to prove, but to express. Now you work not to survive, but to serve. Now you live not for approval, but for alignment. Let's go back to you, right now, sitting with this strange emptiness in your chest, this feeling like life has gone quiet, and you're no longer in it, just watching it go by. That stillness, that's not failure. That's the soul asking you to stop and listen. Listen to the parts of you that were never allowed to speak, the parts that never felt enough, the child in you who was told to succeed, to perform, to win, and was never asked what he wanted or what she felt. This is that child returning, not to haunt you, but to finally be held. This silence is sacred, and when you learn to sit with it rather than fight it, you will start to feel again. Not react, not rush, but feel. And in that feeling, the path reveals itself. Carl Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But here's the truth. Becoming who you are often begins with forgetting who you were. So if you've lost your motivation, your plans, your ambition, maybe it's because something greater is trying to be born through you. Not the version of you that wants to impress the world, but the one who finally understands they don't need to anymore. You are enough, without the labels, without the trophies, without the chase. And the day you truly realize that is the day your soul begins to speak again. You are enough, without the labels, without the trophies, without the chase. And the day you truly realize that is the day your soul begins to speak again. That whisper from the soul, it starts as a faint calling. No fireworks, no revelations, just curiosity. You might feel drawn to something simple, a quiet walk, a childhood hobby, helping someone with no expectation of return. Jung believed this subtle pull, this quiet, irrational urge, is how the self begins to guide us. The ego pushes, the self invites. And the reason you didn't feel motivation before is because you were looking for push, when your soul was waiting to invite you back home. Motivation after awakening isn't loud, it's sacred. It flows from love, not lack, from presence, not pressure. And once you surrender to that, life becomes lighter again. As the new motivation begins to bloom, there's something vital you must do first. Say no. Say no to the roles that no longer fit. Say no to the goals that were never yours. Say no to the systems that made you feel less than just for being human. Carl Jung called this the confrontation with the shadow. The shadow isn't just trauma or darkness, it's also the truth we've suppressed. Our joy, our gifts, our real preferences that we've denied to fit in. After awakening, your power lies not in doing more, but in undoing what was never you. This is not laziness, this is liberation. And in this sacred no, your first true yes is born. Let's look at this through Jung's archetypes. In your old life, you may have been the hero, striving, winning, achieving. After awakening, that identity collapses. The hermit or wounded healer arises. You retreat. You feel numb, lost. But within this phase, a new archetype is being forged. The creator. Not the one who builds companies, followers, or wealth, but the one who creates meaning, real meaning. This is the phase where many people turn to art, writing, mentorship, deep service, teaching from their wounds. And suddenly, motivation begins to return. Not as a fire to conquer, but as a flame to nurture. You don't have to create, you want to, because it flows from who you are now. Now that your ego isn't in charge, it's time to build again, but differently. Old goals. I want to make money so I feel secure. New goals. I want to share my gift in a way that also supports me. Old goals. I want people to admire me. New goals. I want to live in truth, even if it's quiet. Old goals. I want to be loved so I feel whole. New goals. I want to love from wholeness, not need. This shift is radical. It's slow. It's subtle. But it creates a foundation that no storm can shake. And in this process, your authentic motivation returns. A motivation rooted in alignment, not addiction. You start showing up for life again, but not out of fear, out of flow. Let's talk about something many awakened people struggle with. Urgency. You think, I should have figured it out by now. I've wasted time. I'm behind. But here's the truth. Spiritual timing is not linear. Carl Jung believed the soul doesn't work on clocks. It works in seasons. You had to pause. You had to sit in stillness. You had to unlearn everything that wasn't yours before you could remember what is. This wasn't wasted time. This was sacred preparation. You weren't off track. You were underground, growing roots. And now, the shoot begins to rise again, slowly, gently, but with truth. Carl Jung gave us a language for what many of us could never explain. He said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." Motivation post-awakening isn't about grinding your way forward. It's about feeling your way inward. Ask yourself, what feels light? What feels honest? What feels like love, not performance? These are the new metrics, not success, but sovereignty, not doing more, but being true. This is the Jungian way. Here's the honest truth. Even after your awakening, even after soul motivation returns, there will be days when you still feel lost. That's okay, because you're not climbing a mountain, you're sailing a sea. Sometimes you drift, sometimes you dock, sometimes you return to places you've been, just to see them differently. Jung believed growth is not about perfection, but integration. And integration means making peace with your humanness. You are allowed to forget. You are allowed to feel unmotivated again. But now, you know how to return. And that's what matters. How do you know you're shifting out of the void? Here are signs, inspired by Jung's teachings. You begin to enjoy simple things again. Walking, reading, breathing. You're no longer obsessed with outcomes. You value presence. You don't chase people. You attract peace. Your work feels like play. You feel motivated, but not in a manic way. It's stable, calm, clear. You say no more easily. You begin again, not from pressure, but from joy. These are signs the self is now leading. Your outer world may not look spectacular, but your inner world is beginning to bloom. And soon, the two will match. Carl Jung said, "We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate, it oppresses. You are not here to fix yourself. You are here to accept yourself, and from there, evolve. So as your soul reclaims your life, you return to the world, but you return differently. You no longer seek to be understood by everyone, only by your own heart. You no longer crave applause, only alignment. You don't push through burnout. You rest, then rise. You become someone rare, a person who moves through life with soul, not speed. That is power. That is depth. That is awakening, embodied. So let's reflect. You thought you lost something, but here's what you really gained. You lost fake ambition and found true calling. You lost people who drained you and found solitude that healed you. You lost direction and found meaning. You were not stuck. You were being recalibrated, recentered, reborn. And now you see, the loss of motivation wasn't your downfall. It was your doorway. If you've made it this far, I want you to remember, your soul knows the way, even when the path looks empty, even when motivation disappears. This pause was part of your process. This silence was part of your healing. This void was not the end of you. It was the beginning of the real you. And if this video resonated with your journey, if Carl Jung's insights helped put your inner world into words, I invite you to stay connected. Subscribe to this channel. Thank you.